never forget the cheerful time. I'll never forget the fateful night. And you joined with God as you should, and another angel took its flight. Though I never abandoned all those memories of all the nights of cry, but I try to think of the happiness you have now, not the last goodbye. Through summer days you are the sun, giving holy light. In the winter you send the snow, draping the world in cheer and white. On spring days you create the rain, letting flowers bloom, just like the ones in the garden up above that God left for you. During the fall you change the leaves, coloring the trees in heavenly paint. Then you return to the skies where you watch over us and wait. You always are there to talk to me, telling me what's right. It's a great glow at the very end, where you still make me smile while I cry. For you, only you are truly heaven's light.
Ada?
I'm Ada, and my poem is entitled Internet. Internet cannot display the webpage. We're sorry, but your connection is bad, and we don't feel like being nice. Internet cannot play your movie, or your music, or your game, or do anything else. So go read a book, an ancient one with a tattered cover, for the millionth time, even if you did that already. Please try again later, preferably never, so you don't have to deal with you. Constant clicks and refresh and try again. Internet does not like you today. We're cold and crabby, and I've decided not to connect. Just sit back and watch the chaos and the anger that comes from you. Please refrain from suing us. It's not our fault that you want to watch movies or listen to music and play games while your connection is bad. Internet cannot display the webpage, so go away. Thank you.
Nina?
I'm Nina, and I'll be reading two poems from my middle six class that I wrote. The first one is called Past. The lessons from my past paint a picture for my future. Intertwined with everyone's dreams and goals, my past, or wait, our past, is wrapped up inside a tiny, washed-up box just waiting to be opened. Anger management. Rage is the epitome of death in my mind. It fills me up in all kinds of sick ways, pushing me to the point of no return. I changed the day you pushed that button, the button that set my rockets on extreme high, blasting me off into another part in time. I think at some point I saw myself, about 30 or 40 years later, and luckily, you and your bitterness were nowhere to be found.
Is there anybody else that came to read that hadn't read? Ashley? Did you sign in?
Oh no, I was there.
You signed in?
Ashley T. Fernandez.
Marked you up, I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Alright, well, I'm Ashley T. Fernandez. I'm on the list. My poem is called Remnants of August Heat. You claim that it was just another day of rain meant to contrast the remnants of August heat, but I knew better, as did you. In fact, you knew this more than I. The rain, from what I recall, would have never left those crimson licks behind from such a scalding kiss. It would have caressed me rather than ensuring that I was drenched in warmth, so that, were I to leave, my lips would quiver more violently than fear had already enabled them to do. What I was presented with instead soaked deep enough into my skin that I could feel it gnaw at my veins. I'm sure it meant to find my lungs, to make me choke and turn blue rather than pale. There was too much irony in white. Worst of all, it did nothing to oppose the remnants of August heat.
Anyone else? Okay. I would like to thank all the students for coming out to read today.
it's really tough to get up in front of people and speak and share your work and share what's going on in your mind. And I'd really like again to give a nice hand to the students that came up. I'd like to ask our poetry teacher Charles to come up and maybe read a few excerpts. Or do you want to sit and read a few?
Oh, I always want to sit, but movement is good. Movement is good. I really enjoyed the poetry and the readings tonight. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'm going to go to Voorhees High School to run some poetry workshops and read poetry, and this is getting me primed to do that. So thank you all for coming out, especially my students from this year and from past years. It's really nice. It is hard for someone to get up and read in public. It's not very easy at all, except if you don't pay attention to the audience and you just get involved in the language that you love to share with people. I'm going to read some poems from a couple of my books. I promise not to hold you too long. I didn't know I was going to do this, but many people ask me, where do we get ideas for our poetry? Where do poets get the inspiration? I have a poem here called Ars Poetica. That's the Latin term for the art of poetry, which was written in a series of letters or epistles by Horace, the 1st century BC Roman poet, and he gave the description of where poetry comes from and what it should include. It's basically everything you've heard here tonight: metaphor, simile, creativity, alliteration, rhyme. This Ars Poetica has an epigraph by a Chilean poet, Vicente Huidobro, a poeta es un pequeño Dios. The poet is a little God. Where does poetry come from? It starts slowly, like a drop of rain kissing a tin roof, the way a thrown stone skips across the surface of a pond, full of thought and purpose. A single letter written on a still blank page. One, then another, until a word is formed, a phrase, a stanza flooding down from above. Ideas splashing together, slipping over eaves in beaded columns of meaning, swallowed by a thirsty earth that later punctuates these run-on sentences with a single blossom here and there. Beauty that makes sense only when you step outside the house. Now, the beauty that we tend to overlook is always in front of us in the most unlikely places. This is a poem about one of those places. It's entitled Patterson. Patterson, New Jersey. The school system there is a place where I run poetry workshops once a month in a variety of the schools, either middle schools or high schools. This poem is about the first time I was at the East Side High School. You may have heard of that high school. It has a very checkered urban reputation. Patterson. The Garden State Parkway leads north from South Jersey suburbs to that other world of city streets overflowing with no rhyme or reason. East Side High School looms as a multi-walled fortress, with every door locked to keep the outside out. I enter the school behind a late student as another smokes a cigarette while opening the door from the inside. Though expected by the principal, I fear my assignment teaching poetry has begun as a subversive act. My 4 workshops are filled with teenagers far older than my middle age will ever be. A few have babies of their own at home. Others wait for scheduled interruptions in their education so they can serve a harsher sentence imposed by society. East Side isn't the typical place where I read poems and urge others to make their own worlds and words, but it is real. The poetry there is alive. It sits in front of me and squirms in its seat, waiting for the bell so it can spill like a waterfall from school. Every outburst and sigh asks me to hear the rhythms of other